It fixed itself. I have a self-correcting suit coat. It's a magic suit. It has an invisibility cloak too. Just watch. Well, it's been a great day. Excuse me. It's always good to be with you and at this church. We appreciate just your faithfulness to the Lord and continuing on. I love that we get to come back and see so many familiar faces. And then it seems like every time we come back, there's a few new faces too. It's great. It's really great. It's random though, because I feel like I run into church members from this church in the weirdest of places. Now Miss Dieta, she gets around. We see her in some random places as well. Every once in a while, Brother Frank is with her too. But then Nathan and Jesse, we will run into them in the craziest of places. I was at a funeral in Missouri, getting around and fellowshipping with some people. And in comes this curly-headed girl and this old man. They're not here, so I can totally tease them. I'm like, it's Nathan and Jesse. What are they doing in here? But he knew Brother Rodriguez, if you remember Crystal, she passed away earlier this year, tragically. Just an interesting situation. But they were there. And I forgot, there's one other place I had just seen them. And it was a random deal again. So it's all right. It's all right. You're blessing your pastor too, though. I do know that. He brags on you whenever we do get to spend time with you. And I'm not just saying that. He's not paying me the extra to say that. Yeah. They're the ones who paid me. But he does. He brags on you. Brags on what the Lord's doing in your lives. And it's exciting. It's exciting to just hear what God's doing here on the mountain. And normally I say that about camp, but you guys are in the mountains too. So, matter of fact, you're higher than us. So, but it's always been good. We got to stay at a nice place too. Brother Stephen's upped his Airbnb game. My wife really liked this one too. So, I mean, that's a great spot if you need to book us again. Annalise liked it. So, which in this area, it can't be that hard to find them. I mean, this is kind of vacation country. So, it's a beautiful area. But we love getting to be here. So this afternoon is going to be a little bit of a different, I'm going to approach this message a bit differently. So you can turn in your Bibles if you want to Genesis chapter 17. We're not going to read right away. Matter of fact, I'm going to read as I preach. And prayerfully, and I shouldn't say this because I always jinx myself when I say this. Prayerfully, it's going to be a short message. Because I know how afternoons can get. Everybody's got bellies filled with food. It's nice and warm in here. The sun's back out, so that is going to help a little bit unless the cloud cover comes back in. But, eyelids get heavy, and it's International Baptist nap time. So, I get it. When, just before getting married, there's this exciting season. Maybe exciting is a strong word, but there's this season of preparation that comes for getting ready to get engaged. And it's the season of, what ring am I going to buy her? And girls, you ladies have standards, expectations. It's a good way to put it. I had to go and do some research and kind of go and educate myself on things like diamonds. Because what I found out, whenever I would walk into a jewelry store, do a little bit of research, I would walk in and say, man, that is beautiful. Come to find out, and then I see the price tag, and I'm like even really more excited because the price tag was low. And then I found out that it's cubic zirconia. Oh, no. Yeah. And apparently, cubic zirconia, it just doesn't cut it. It's not the real deal. It's not diamonds. Today, in 2025, there's the lab-grown diamonds. I don't understand all that's even involved in those. They're above my budget. In and of themselves, much less normal real diamonds, because due to the lab-grown diamonds, real diamonds have only escalated in price even more. And lab-grown diamonds, they're beautiful, but I've been told that even those technically just don't cut it because, it's a diamond, but it's not a diamond. You know what I mean? It's just, it matters. Cubic zirconia, to me, it's beautiful, it's shiny, it's gorgeous. I would have said, man, slap that on a gold band. Let's use that. She'll be happy for sure. She'll be happy for 2 seconds until she finds out what it is, and then it's going to end up in between my eyes on my forehead. That's not what she would have done. She only would have silently given me the treatment over several years. Does anybody have a house I could stay in? I'm going to need a bed tonight. That's exactly right. I saw that your theme, is this the theme for the year? Yep. I was looking at the posters. They're well done, by the way. I like them. The theme for this year, follow thou me. Jesus saith unto him, if I will tarry till I come. If I will that he tarry till I come. What is that to thee? Follow thou me. All of the Christian life, that is ultimately what it is about. It is about following in the footsteps of Christ and seeking to ever become more like Christ, but following him in a life of faith. I stand here and I believe that I stand on solid ground in saying this. I believe that everybody that is in this room has a desire to live a life of faith. That each and every one of you have made decisions that have put you on a path of a life of faith. And that you desire to continue on that path, and that you desire to stay on that path. There are big moments that come in life. Marriage is one of them. Graduating from high school, that's a big moment. Obviously, most of us are past that season. That's not a slam. But there's graduating from college. There's getting married. There's your first job. There's getting your driver's license. That's a big moment. Noah's just a few months away from getting his permit. That's a big moment, legally. The key word, legally being able to drive. We won't say any more unless we get in trouble. You understand that there's big moments that come in life. The birth of your first child. The birth of your first grandchild. And for some, your great-grandchild. Those are big moments. They're exciting moments. Salvation, the greatest of anything else that takes place in your life. There's one moment that should be the top of them all. It would be salvation. Those are big moments. But can I say something I really want you to get? Life isn't lived in the big moments. Life isn't lived in the big moments. That's not to say that obviously those things don't happen, that they don't have big impact. But the truth is, life is lived moment by moment. It's lived in the small moments that come, and therefore the small decisions that come. And as a result of that, because things aren't lived in the big moments, but life is lived in the small things, for those of us who are seeking to live a life of faith, for the life of faith, it's not going to be big things that is going to deter you from the life of faith, but it's going to be small things. It's going to be subtle things that are going to come along that are potentially going to knock you off of a life of faith. It's not going to be big, scary, or life-altering things, though sometimes those come along. Very often, and Brother Stephen has seen this, I've seen this in ministry as well, that very often what causes people to leave a life of faith is not big things. It's small things. Now, I want to ask a question. Okay, again, with the premise that I believe that everybody in this room desires to live a life of faith. The question is this: what would cause you to leave this life of faith? And I'm talking about a genuine life of faith. I'm not talking about showing up to church and just showing up to church. I'm talking literally day by day, moment by moment, truly seeking to live a life of faith. What would cause you, what would it take to remove you, to push you off of the life of faith? Just think about it. Don't answer it, but just think about it. In Genesis chapter number 17, God comes to Abraham and he reiterates the covenant. He reiterates the promise that he is going to make of Abraham a great nation. Now, the reason why I say he reiterates is because God has actually, prior to this, he's already promised him that this is going to happen. He's already promised him. Matter of fact, this would be, if I remember correctly, this would be the third time he comes to him and reiterates the promise to him that, Abraham, you are going to become a great nation. And it's through you that I desire to bless all of the nations of the world. Matter of fact, it's in this chapter that he renames Abraham to Abraham, because prior to this, he was known as Abram. That was his given name. And now he's called Abraham. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the reasons why and what the name meant, but then he also then comes to Sarah. And he says of Sarah, her name prior to this was Sarai, S-A-R-A-I, and he renames her to Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, which interestingly enough is the same name meaning, which is princess. It's just changed or modernized for the time. Now, again, I don't have time to go into all that. But the reason why he reiterates the promise here is because something has changed between the last time he gave him the promise and this time. So the last time God had given them the promise, he told them they were going to have a son, and that from him they would eventually become a great nation. Time passes and Sarah doesn't conceive. Sarah doesn't have a child. And she becomes antsy. And for her, the barrenness becomes a shame and it becomes kind of a heaviness to her. And in both Abraham and Sarah, they're probably wondering, what's going to happen? When is it that God's going to fulfill this promise? Finally, one day, Sarah hatches a plan that was very common for their day. He says, Abraham, you take Hagar, my handmaid, and you go in into her. And basically, they intended for Hagar, the handmaid, to be a surrogate mother for them. And that whatever child is born then will be their son. And that was a common thing that took place during that time. But it was very erroneous. This is not what God had told them was going to happen. God had told them that the son was going to come through Sarah. And so in their mind, this was kind of like, okay, well, we could do it this way, and it's still technically her son because it's her handmaid. Again, there's some cultural things going on here that make it weird that we don't necessarily fully grasp. But that's what's going on here. So Abraham goes into Hagar. He agrees and goes along with the situation, which, by the way, was immensely foolish. Yeah. The consequences of which we are still seeing today in the Middle East. That is an absolute fact. That even though this is Genesis 17, we are still in 2025 seeing what took place prior to this. So Abraham goes into Hagar, and a son is born by the name of Ishmael. 13 years have passed. 13 years have passed. Ishmael has grown up. Abraham has invested in. He's nurtured. He's loved. He's taught Ishmael how to take care of the cattle. He's taught Ishmael how they are to pack the tent whenever they move to a new location. He's maybe Ishmael's been present whenever Abraham has built an altar to the Lord, and maybe along the way Abraham has kind of shown him, no, not that rock, son. I want the other rock next to it. That we want really good rocks for the altar. Along the way, I guarantee you that Abraham has been investing and loving Ishmael as though he was his own son. And I know that you're missing some of the story. I know that there's some tension that takes place as soon as Ishmael's born between Sarah and Hagar and Abraham. We're kind of moving past that because time does pass and Ishmael is still in the house. Hagar is still in the house. So think about it. This is Abraham's flesh and blood. It may not be Sarah's, But for Abraham, that's his son. He loves Ishmael. And rightfully so. There's no reason, regardless of who the mother was, there was no reason for Ishmael to hate Ishmael. And so years pass by, and Ishmael grows, and maybe by the time he's 13, he's already starting to grow a scraggly beard. And every time he comes in, Abraham rolls his eyes, but like, oh my goodness, you call that a beard, son? No. There's been a bond that has formed in those 13 years. Well, the Bible does say this, that every man's hand is going to be against Ishmael. That's in the future. That's a prophetic statement. So it could be that even now, Ishmael himself is a bit of a rebellious boy, and at times tests Abraham. It could be that he's a rebellious boy that at times doesn't always do what he tells him, and that at times he frustrates him to no end. But at the same time, what I think we could easily infer is that Abraham loves Ishmael because over those 13 years, the bond has just naturally formed. So it's with that background in mind, I want you to take a look at Genesis chapter 17. You don't have to stand, just stay seated. Genesis 17, verse number 15. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai, thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her. Notice this. And she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. What an incredible promise. I mean, what an incredible thing to say. Not only that she's going to have a son, but that the people that is going to come from that son, that there's eventually going to be kings that are going to come from her line, from her, not through Hagar, but truly physically from her. She is the princess from whom kings are going to come. That is a promise that God makes. But there's a really big problem. Sarah's not 23. Sarah's not 33. She's not 53. She's 90 years old. And Abraham, he's not 30 either. Between the two of them, there's nearly 2 centuries worth of living. Abraham's 100 and Sarah's 90 years old. That's a big hurdle. That's a big hurdle. Physically, naturally, that's a massive hurdle. Imagine, okay, those of you who are over a certain age, I don't want to single you out, but imagine your husband comes into you and says, honey, God just told me you're going to have a son. Exactly. There's a bit of a... Honey, have you seen the color of my hair? Life has happened. The way of women has ended. Things have changed. That's a massive hurdle. When God tells Abraham this, the Bible says this, that Abraham falls on his knees and he laughs. Now, it's at this point that a lot of times it's approached that Abraham laughs because he's like, there's no way that this can happen. But here's the reason why I actually don't believe that that's why Abraham laughs. Because God doesn't correct him for laughing like he does to Sarah. So the question is then, what is it that why is he laughing? Imagine this, our favorite billionaire walks up to you, our favorite billionaire being Elon Musk. I'm joking. Our favorite billionaire walks up to you and says, here's $1 million. If that happened, or he even just says, I'm going to give you $1 million, and I'm serious, like it's going to happen, you are going to get $1 million. We would laugh because it's like, it's incredible news that we believe is going to happen, but it's incredible news. Like, are you kidding me? This is incredible. Have you ever had that moment where somebody told you something that was truly incredible, truly fantastic news? That it's not that you disbelieved, but you couldn't help but laugh because the news was so incredible. It's just like, this is awesome. the salvation of your child. I mean, whenever that happens, you can't help but laugh at how exciting that is. I mean, you know it happened, but it's exciting. Whenever your wife, whenever my wife came and told me, hey, we're having a kid, there's a little bit of a laugh there. You know, you can't help but laugh because of the excitement and like, this is an incredible moment. God just told him, God reiterated the promise that Sarah, the 90-year-old wife of yours, Abraham, is going to have a son. And from that son, there's going to come a whole line of people that are going to become a great nation. And there's going to be kings that are going to come from that line. The news to Abraham, he doesn't stumble. It doesn't faze him. It's not like this, there's no way. No. He falls on his knees thinking, what an incredible promise. I mean, this is incredible because he even brings up the fact, God, I'm 100 years old and she's 90. I mean, this is incredible news that you could do such a thing. What an incredible moment. But then notice what Abraham says. It's as if a switch is flipped. Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. Now that's suddenly an odd response. If he's laughing because he believes that God can do this and this is incredible news, why is he suddenly bringing up Ishmael? Well, think about it. 13 years have passed. That boy that's outside the tent, or that may be sleeping. We don't know what time of day this potentially took place. And it could be that maybe this happened at nighttime and Ishmael is sleeping in the tent and Abraham could even hear his soft snoring in the distance. I don't know, or maybe he could hear him playing or calling to the animals. But immediately Abraham's mind wanders or Abraham immediately thinks of Ishmael and the one who's become his son, the one he loves, the one who over a period of time has just become it's truly his flesh and blood and he's poured his life into. This one that matters to him. This one that's here, that's actually on hand. This one that's actually present today. I mean, he's already 13 years old. He's now in the minds of the Israelites. He's now beginning to become a man because they didn't wait till 18. It actually happened during those period of years that we see as the adolescent years, the teenage years. That's whenever they were becoming the man. And so Abraham's thinking of Ishmael, thinking, but what about Abraham or Ishmael? What about Ishmael? The life of faith at times, even though we know God can accomplish something, the life of faith at times results in tension. That even though we may say, that's the life I know that we want to go on, we think of something else that we think will work just as good. Think about it. For Abraham, he thinks about Ishmael. He looks over at Ishmael in his mind and says, but what about Ishmael? Is there any... God, there's no reason why he won't work just as good. I mean, he's already here. He's already a known quantity. I'm already training him in the things that I'm already teaching him how to love you. I'm already teaching him how to worship you. I'm already teaching him how to manage the cattle. I've shown him the boundaries of the land that you have shown me, God. I mean, God, he knows the land already. This is an incredible son that I've invested in. This is my son, the one that I love. And he points to what he knows. He points to what's already there. And he says, God, is there any reason? God, what about Ishmael? He's just as good. Let him be the son. I know, and I want you to get this. God, I know that you can fulfill. I know that you can accomplish what you have just promised. But I already have Ishmael. Won't this work just as good? I want you to get this. I want you to listen carefully. Rarely do we depart from a life of faith because we think that God can't take care of us or that God can't accomplish His will and purpose. Rarely do we depart from a life of faith because of that. We often depart from a life of faith because we see something that we believe will work just as good. Does that make sense? That we believe something will work just as good. Think about this. Money gets tight, things become tricky. Faith promise rolls around. It's the time of month, maybe you give once a month for faith promise, and you're thinking, you know what, it's really tight this year and or this month, and you know what? You know what? You know what? I think we're going to give more time in Vacation Bible School, and that'll kind of compensate, and then maybe we'll keep the faith promise this year because we have those bills that we need to pay for, and God understands that we need to take care of these things, and God understands that we need to take care of our needs, and so what we're going to do is we see this opportunity. We're going to take kind of what we know we can do, and we're going to tithe of our time. And we'll come up with some idea. We'll manufacture some kind of idea. Or we'll look at something that we already know and we say, I'm going to grab that. And in my mind, that's going to work just as good as what I've already promised God. God, it's a tight month. Surely you understand it's a tight month. And I have these bills. I need to take care of this. And I know that you can take care of us. I mean, God, I don't doubt that. But how about I'm going to tithe of our time. That's going to be just as good. Surely, that's just as good. That's a common belief. It's a common thing I've heard. Maybe it's just simply the world system around us, the world's way of thinking. There's so many ideas. There's so many ideas when it comes to parenting. There's so many different ideas when it comes to parenting. And if we're not careful, because of what has become familiar to us, we'll adopt the ideas of the world around us, and it'll sound good. And sometimes it may even have elements of biblical way of parenting, and we think, man, that sounds good. And God, and maybe a message will be preached, and we'll hear something, and we're like, that makes sense, God, I understand. But there's this other idea that just seems to kind of make a little bit more sense. God, it just seems to make more sense that I would keep Ishmael, and that we would use Ishmael, that we would use this idea of parenting, because God, surely it's just as good as what you've told us. And we find all kinds of ways. We adopt all kinds of methods. We would turn to things that we're comfortable with. We'll turn to things that are in front of us. We'll turn to things that are familiar to us. And we'll say, surely this works just as good. Surely this is just as credible of an idea as what you have adopted to us. And I want you to get this. And as we begin to then adopt our own way, and as we then begin to say, this one thing, whatever it may be, this one area that we believe will work just as good, and we adopt this, that over a period of time, we begin to do this more and more and more. And it's not a big moment then that would cause you to fail to follow thou me, but that it's that along the way you've seen things that just seems to make sense. Can we be real about the life of faith? Sometimes obedience to God does not make practical sense. Sometimes obedience to God or following biblical things to the world even around us is nonsense. And they say, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And somebody will give you advice that seems to just make sense. You're like, God, this just makes sense. Maybe I've misunderstood what you're telling me. Maybe whatever excuse we would come up with, but we would see something and we'd say, this just seems to be just as good, God. God, what about Ishmael? There's nothing wrong with Ishmael. He's already here, God. Let him be the son. And had Abraham truly pursued that and decided, no, Ishmael's going to be the son, there's a very real possibility that redemptive history would have ended right there and Abraham would have been set off the scene. God would have still had his own, God would have had another alternative. But that's not how the story goes. God gives them Isaac. And the story doesn't end there, because if you know anything about history, from Isaac down the line comes a son by the name of Jacob. And Jacob has a son by the name of Judah. And Judah has a son way down here who is by the name of David, who ends up becoming the king of Israel, that to this day they look back and think about as just the king of Israel in so many ways. I mean, come on, the Israeli flag has the Star of David on it. Where that comes from, I actually don't really know. But they have the Star of David from it. And then from David, way down the line, from his line, ultimately comes one by the name of Jesus, who comes and takes upon him the sin of the world, who comes and takes your sin, and he takes my sin, our punishment, the condemnation, our shame, the rejection. He takes all of that, and he dies on the cruel death of the cross. But then not only that, 3 days later, he rises again to bring new life to you and I, victorious over sin, victorious over death, victorious over it all, giving us hope for life, giving us hope for the future, and restoring a broken relationship that existed between you and God, and restoring a relationship between me and God, where there was no hope, there was nothing I could do. All of that ultimately comes from the promised son, Isaac. So I want you to get this. If we choose our own ways, the thing that looks like it's going to be just as good, there's a real possibility that it's not going to end in life. Because whenever we choose life, or whenever we choose to continue on the life of faith, even whenever at times it doesn't make sense, or even whenever there's that natural tension that exists, where we believe that God can, but at the same time we see something that just seems to be a bit easier, we can go that way. We can go the easier way, or the way that seems to just make more sense. But I promise you, it never leads to more life. But the life of faith does. God has called us to fruitfulness. That fruitfulness isn't more children, though that was a part of the promise. The fruitfulness was also this, that God would be glorified, in that we would be reproduced, if you will, in the fact that there would be others who would follow Christ because of our testimony. That there would be others who would follow Him. That would follow Him. We'll just rephrase that, sorry. That would follow Him because they would see a life of faith, and we would seek to live out a life of faith, and we wouldn't deviate from that life of faith because somewhere along the line we've seen something that we say, you know what, this looks just as good. Because the reality is every one of us has an Ishmael, or will have an Ishmael, that is going to look just as good, or that even in our mind just makes sense. And we'll say, God, what about Ishmael? Church, don't choose the cubic zirconia of Ishmael. Choose the precious, unlab-grown diamond of Isaac. The life of faith isn't lived by choosing what just makes sense, or what's on hand, or what looks like it's going to be just as good. Because the truth is, had Abraham done that, the story would not have ended the same. So, I haven't gone too long. The short answer, or the short message is this. Don't choose Ishmael, because he's not just as good. He's not the son of promise. Choose Isaac, because he is the son of promise. The life of faith, we rarely deviate. We're rarely knocked off of the path of the life of faith by big, bad sins. Though sometimes those things come. By big moments that shatter our world. No. Oftentimes, what will lead us off of the path will be seeing an Ishmael that seems to just make sense. That seems to just be just as good. It's not how it works. Church, choose Isaac, not Ishmael. With heads bowed and eyes closed. Simple message. There may not be a lot of specific application I gave in this, but I hope the principle was clear.